So today I thought I'd do a video on a character that I have a very long history with, and that's Lupin the Third, Arsène Lupin. Arsène Lupin was created in the 1960s by a creator who went by the name of Monkey Punch. And so these are some books that reprint the comic strips from back then. So these are the original comics. They were reprinted. These books are hard to get. I've only got about a dozen, but there's a lot more. But by the time I started buying these, they were already well out of print. And so they were hard to get. I could have gotten more, but I would have had to pay well above the original price. So I opted not to do it. So these originally $10, they would have been a lot more. My first experience, as far as I can remember, was with the video game Cliffhanger. And this was at a time when they were producing interactive video games, with the most famous being Dragon's Lair. Dragon's Lair had animation done specifically for the game, whereas what Cliffhanger did was it took two movies and created a video game around it. And those two movies were the following: were Castle of Cagliostro, one of Hayao Miyazaki's first films, and this film, Mystery of Mamo. So they took these two films, chopped them up, and created a video game out of them. So I had no idea who this character was. And if you look at, this is the marquee. This is an original marquee. And a lot of these marquees I get framed, but this one I couldn't get framed because of the lip on it. So I was not able to get this one framed. But you can see here the character doesn't really look right. I assume this was probably maybe an American artist or someone who was not particularly familiar with Lupin III, because he just doesn't look correct. My second experience that I can remember was in a book, this Manga, The World of Japanese Comics, that I had when I was a very young. And it's a really interesting book. I used to read this book all of the time because I was really fascinated by it. And so one of the sections in here goes into the fact that there was a lot of risque material in Japanese comic books, and there is Lupin looking very strange. There he is, dressed as a woman, and then his disguise is revealed. And so it wasn't until years later that I figured out who this character was, that I figured out that this character and the character in the manga book were the same character. So Lupin has had a long career, starting with the 1960s. He's had almost, as far as I could tell, almost continuously had TV shows, or I know he's had a lot of TV shows. And I've never watched any of the TV shows, but what I have watched is the movies. So there are actually 27 made-for-TV movies, and those were just the made-for-TV movies. It also has OVAs, the original video, original video animation. And so there was some movies that were OVAs. Those are ones that are direct to video. The television one obviously just goes straight to TV. And then we have theatrical releases. And all the way up to they were producing a few years back, 2019, 2017, they produced a series. Well, from 2014 to 2019. They've slowed down a little bit on the TV movies, but they were producing about one a year. So they have produced a ton, and the character is still wildly popular. And I think he's one of the crossover characters that a lot of people in the West know of him. Lupin III was, the original character came from a French literary character named Arsène Lupin. And Monkey Punch just kind of stole him. He took the idea and made Lupin III, who was to be the grandson of the original gentleman thief, Arsène Lupin. And that did cause a little bit of problems in the West because of concerns of copyright. I mean, see, I can't remember if it's Mystery of Mamo or no. He is called Lupin, but I know in one of the movies they call him Wolf because they were concerned about copyright infringement. And I have a ton of these. I probably have every single theatrical release. And then I have, yeah, it looks like I have every single theatrical release. And then I have most of the TV movies. I have every TV movie that's been released in the West. And I have a lot of the OVAs. The one I don't have is Green versus Red. For some reason, I think that's the only one that was released in the West that I didn't pick up. And it got bad reviews, and I think it was a little hard to get or something. So I ended up not getting that. But if I had all of my Lupin movies in a stack, it'd probably be 2 feet high. So this right here is a figure from Bandai. And there's actually 4 figures that were created. For whatever reason, I boxed up 3 of them. And I don't know why I did that, but maybe someday I'll bring them out. I really like this figure. It's the suit coat is a little bit of a separate piece. The tie is a little bit separate. The other figures, and I also like he's got the super skinny body. It's really good representation of Lupin III. They've also have Fujiko that I didn't think was a very good figure. But also Jigen and Zenigata. And Jigen and Zenigata were both kind of limited release. So I paid extra for them, but I did manage to get them. I think I got those off of eBay, and I didn't pay that much for them, and I think they skyrocketed in price. So someday, I don't know why I packed them away, because I'm a big fan of the character, so I'll pull them out sometimes. The one they didn't make was Goemon. I don't know why they never made Goemon, because Goemon is the 4th member of the group. He's at least as popular, I would think, as Jigen. So I don't know why they didn't include him. But they continue to come out with these movies, and I continue to buy them. This is another case where Discotek Media, they're currently the ones. It's jumped from company to company who has the rights to produce them in the West. And currently it's Discotek Media. And Discotek Media is doing a really good job, because it used to be you'd only get these movies maybe 12, 15 years after they were released in Japan. And now we're getting to the point where it's just a couple years behind, or sometimes maybe less than a year. And so they're also trying to fill in the gaps, because other companies had been producing, but there was a long string of movies in there that never got produced. And I don't know if they're I know that they've released a lot of movies that are only subtitled, but I think recently they've been doing mostly dubbed, and they're all Blu-ray releases, so they're very nice. The qualities of the movies, I think, vary significantly. There are some movies that I thought were really bad. I think the best of all of them, in my opinion, is Castle of Cagliostro. This was directed by Hayao Miyazaki. Although I will admit that the tone in this movie is very different from any of the other Lupin movies, but this is my favorite. So anyway, that's kind of the introduction to Lupin III, and I'll probably talk about him more later, because it's definitely one of my favorite anime characters.